Wow, it has been a long time since I've been asked to review a game that I've enjoyed as much as this one. Ys Memories of Celceta is technically the fourth Ys game, and it came out in 2012. However, it does play very similar to Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana, which was the most recent one to come out. Besides the use of Adol as the main character, every game is independent, so you don't need any knowledge of the other games in order to enjoy this one. Long story short, this game is about mapping out a forest and getting 100% completion of the map, so you'll go around visiting new towns, which unlock new mechanics like synthesis and character upgrades. Otherwise, you'll be moving around fields that are filled with monsters, completing quests, and getting into glorious combat. Now, combat is the strongest point of this game by far, and that's generally the case for most Ys games. So it is a action RPG. You have basic attack combos, you have aerials, you can charge your attacks to get some resources, and then you have flashy attack skills which require those resources in order to activate. Now, if the combat system just remained there, it would probably be a pretty mediocre game. But you also have Flash Guard, which is when you essentially parry, you guard at the perfect time, and this will enable you to do bonus crit damage for a short amount of time. You have Flash Move, which is when you dodge at the perfect time to avoid an attack, and this will slow down time, giving you iframes, so it's great to use in a pinch. You have the Excellent Kill system, which will give you bonuses if you slay a monster with a weapon that they're most weak to. You have Skill Finish, where if you use an attack skill to finish an enemy, you get some of the resources you spent using that skill back. You have EX skills, which are souped up special attacks that take a long time to recharge, but they do a massive amount of damage. And there are just so many elements to the combat system, where if you know it inside out, you can master the combat of this game like very few other games allow you to do. Christ, even just the guard. If you hold down the guard button, you take reduced damage. It's an actually useful guard. Can you remember the last time you played an RPG and actually used the guard button? Like, Christ. Honestly, the only criticism I have of the combat is the flash guard. Sometimes if you flash guard, which is when you guard at the perfect time, you think, okay, I've got increased amounts of damage, I'm going to go in for the attack, but you'll get hit by another attack, as a lot of boss monsters especially use multi-hit attacks, so the flash guard sometimes can be pretty useless. So yeah, that's a lot to combat, which is why it makes it so rewarding when you get into the meaty bits of combat of this game. It was the combat that kept me coming back, that kept me exploring areas, going through every single path of the dungeon to make sure I've gotten everything, because enemies are everywhere. About 80% of the time you're in game, you're going to be in combat, and that might sound like a lot, but honestly, when you get into the combat of this game, you'll realise why that's a great thing. I will never complain of more combat in a Ys game. Of course, like in many other RPGs, you have multiple characters. In Memories of Celceta, you have 6 characters who all play very uniquely. Your 6 weapon types will be swords, fists, throwing knives, spears, maces, and glaives. They all play very uniquely, and each character also has unique skills which will complement the weapon types they use. Some will be great for juggling enemies in the air, and this is great because when you attack an enemy in the air, they drop gold. Some will be awesome for stun locking or freezing enemies, others will be great for raw damage, and you have your standard buffs as well, ones that boost your team's defense or boost your team's attack. And it's not just the weapons that make the characters unique, they also have great personalities, and I would say they are one of the stronger casts in most Ys games. But if I had to attribute one part of this game that kept me coming back, it is the attack skills. Not only are the skills very flashy, so when you unlock a new one, you're always very eager to find out what it does and what it looks like, but the amount you get is very generous. Unlike certain games like the Star Ocean franchise or the Tales of games, in Memories of Celceta, you are unlocking skills all the way to the end game. Currently in my game, Adol, the main character, has 12 unique attack skills, each of which have 3 tiers which upgrade the more you use them. For example, he has a skill called Blade Rush, which is like a really neat combo attack. When you upgrade it to level 2, it releases a whirlwind on the final hit, which sends, well, a whirlwind out to attack enemies, and when you upgrade it to skill level 3, the whirlwind will become much bigger. Another example is the character with throwing knives has a skill called Poison Dagger. When you upgrade this to rank 2, the Poison Dagger will send out an AoE poisonous cloud, and when you upgrade it to skill 3, instead of throwing out one dagger that releases a poisonous cloud, you send out 3 of them, like a fan of daggers that all release poisonous clouds. I think having skills upgrade the more you use them is a great method of progression. Not only does it encourage you to use skills over and over to see what their like when they're fully upgraded, but say you've been using one skill which is maxed out because you use it all the time, it encourages you to go out and try other skills. Some skills will seem useless when they're at rank 1, but when you upgrade them to rank 3 they'll get additional effects that suddenly turn them into one of the best skills that the character has. I find that in a lot of action RPGs I play, some skills I will completely neglect. However, both Star Ocean and the Ys franchise have skills that upgrade the more you use them, and I just think it's fantastic. It means that I don't neglect any skills the character has, I'll keep using them to try and upgrade them, and sometimes I'll find my new favourite skill, instead of them just sitting wasting away in a menu. Any kind of mechanic like this that encourages experimenting with your playstyles, I think more games should implement. Even your super powerful extra skills that I mentioned, you can unlock an accessory which will give you a second, stronger version of these EX skills. One of the extra skills which I wasn't very keen on was this ice prison attack. It created a circle of ice which would freeze enemies, but otherwise it was a long animation, it didn't look too fantastic, and it didn't do much damage. It was also pretty easy to miss. However, when I gave Frida the character with the accessory which gave her a second extra skill, her second extra skill was just fantastic. It was like a multi-hit flurry with her glaive, and the moment I saw that, I never took that accessory off her. A lot of games will have characters with ultimate skills, but giving them a second one I think is a great idea. It gives you more options. Say, imagine Overwatch. Imagine if in Overwatch every hero had a second ultimate. It would dramatically change how you play that hero, and it just allows you to tailor the game more the way you want it, which is something that every game should do, really. Speaking of accessories, there is plenty of build diversity. Each character has about 12 weapons which you can customize with materials very similar to Final Fantasy X, so you can give a sword the ability to poison, the ability to absorb health from enemies, the ability to set enemies on fire or freeze them, or just to boost raw damage. And as well as upgrading weapons with monster materials to get these bonuses, some weapons will have innate buffs built into them as well. And it's not just weapons, you have armor that you can customize in the same way, and each character has 2 accessory slots, with accessories dramatically changing how you play, instead of them just being static stat buffs like they are in a lot of RPGs. And the variety isn't just limited to combat either. You have an artifact system where throughout the game you unlock up to 8 different artifacts, and these will change the way in which you explore the world. For example, you can unlock a pair of Gale boots, which will not only allow you to run really fast, but you can run up walls to access new areas. You have a dwarf bracelet, which will shrink you down to the size of an ant, so that you can fit through small gaps, and again, access new areas. You have artifacts which allow you to speak to animals, to swim underwater. They just really change the way in which you engage with and explore the world around you, which is great for a game where the focus is exploring 100% of the map. So exploration is another selling point about this game. The artifact system encourages you to actually engage with the world and remember parts to go back to later. I know the comparison is overdone, but it's similar to what makes the world design in Dark Souls great, and it actually inspires you to reach 100% map completion, going around every dungeon, collecting every chest. Once you have all the artifacts, you just look at the world in a completely different way. I know a lot of reviewers would have brought up the story at this point, and the game does have a great story, it's just not its strongest point. It does have pretty high stakes and it has quite a few twists to it, but it just didn't really draw me in. I can't fault it for that. You have to remember this is a 2012 game. I don't even really think a game needs a strong story. When the game is just so fun to play, it doesn't really matter. One thing I did appreciate though is you have dialogue choices, it's usually one of 2, and there aren't any consequences. So you can be a complete arsehole to your friends and say the most ridiculous answer to every situation, and it won't affect you in a bad way. You don't have to worry about relationship systems or choices mattering or anything like that. So it just allows you to have a bit of fun, really. I know some of you may be looking at the graphics and find them off-putting, but despite it being an old game and not having very high resolution graphics, it still has great environment design. Every now and then you'll come across a vista or stumble across a new town, and it's just great to look at. So whether or not the graphics aren't up to standard, the aesthetic definitely is. There is also the limitation of this originally being a PS Vita game, so you don't have complete control of the camera. At best, sometimes you can zoom in or out, but that's about it. You can't turn it left or right, and in some environments you can't even zoom in or out. But I mean, that's my 30 seconds of criticism about the game, and the fact that the rest of this video I've been waxing lyrical about how great it is really does suggest that this game is worth getting. It has a great amount of content, and the pacing is done really well. I managed to 100% complete the game in about 25 to 30 hours, so it doesn't drag on too much, which I really appreciate. I'm going to be rating this game incredibly highly, and I'm not even reviewing it from the perspective of it being a 2012 game. I'm reviewing this game based on other games that are currently released in 2020, and that being said, this game I would give an 8.5 out of 10. There are just a couple of tweaks which would need to be made, preferably with the camera, and some of the boss battles are a little uninspired, but none of these issues stop the game being fun. I think make the boss battles a little bit more inspired, make it so you can move the camera, have it a little bit less janky, and I guess Adol played Memories of Celceta because he has amnesia and evidently can't remember what happened in the story either. With these few simple fixes, I think this game would be a 9.5 out of 10. So close to perfection. The remaster of Ys Memories of Celceta is out June 9th in America and June 19th in Europe. So if you're in America watching this video, the game is now available in the stores, but if you're like me and you're in Europe, you're going to have to wait until June 19th before you can play it. Thank you ever so much Decibel PR for the review key and the opportunity to review this game. I definitely want to go back and play some of the other Ys games after finishing this one. Also, goddamn, it has been so long since I've 100% completed a game. That itself speaks testament to how much this game is worth playing. I hope you enjoyed this review, please leave a like if you did, and let me know what you think of Ys Memories of Celceta or the other Ys games. Otherwise, stay safe out there, I love you guys and I really appreciate you being a part of this community. This is me, Evans with a Z 111 out. Peace.